Hello everyone, it's Anthony Tharp again. I just as about to leave when I looked and I saw a question that was raised on the internet that should Jamaica leave the Queen. I think maybe should Jamaica leave the King right now because there's no longer a Queen. That said, I thought maybe I need to make a quick comment, especially with this constitutional issue, or issues that we need to work through, and some of them have to be really detailed and they're complex issues, simple questions but complex issues around all those simple topics that we have to deal with. As I said, we just talked about the issue with human relationships in terms of homosexuality and alternate lifestyle. We talked about the leadership, how it could be structured. We did that yesterday and we mentioned it today again, that the role of the Prime Minister or the leader in the future government, future constitution must be clearly defined. Every duty must be clearly defined. And just like how you have somebody coming into your house to work, or a workman, the work is detailed. The flow chart of activity that they have to do is part of the job description. So we don't leave the idea of them guessing what they need to be doing or why they're there. And so the masters, the bosses, the Jamaican people know exactly what this person that we've selected to represent us in overseeing the rest of the government knows exactly, precisely, without question, without ambiguity, what they should be doing. And so when I saw the question, I'm not sure which blogger put it up, but the question says, should we leave the Queen? It just hit me that, that's an important question that even though we don't have a Queen and the King is there, that we need to answer. And so it's 11:12 a.m. on May 26, 2023, and I'm going to be quick because it's Friday. I lost a whole day. I didn't know today would have been Friday. I thought today would have been Thursday. So I lost a whole day not realizing that, but that's fine. I'm not under any schedule, special or otherwise, so I'm not stressing myself over that. Just thought I'd mention it. So the question is, I think the more appropriate question is, should we leave the British Empire? And I think it's actually a question that's been answered over and over again. We've never wanted to be a part of the British Empire, and they've never wanted us to be there. They've used us and they continue to use us. And we are a people that have decided that we want our own self-determination. The very first time we fired a musket or burnt a plantation or took out a few British persons who were on the island oppressing us was a signal saying, we don't want you, you don't want us, you want to use us, we want our freedom, and we're going to fight for it. And so we had people who actually did that, our national heroes. Some of them lost their lives by striking, like Paul Bogle, against the brutality that was going on. We had the Maroons who went up and secured their own sovereignty. And we had other people who, subsequent to emancipation and took this country through independence, which is from history and from oral history, which I've been hearing recently. And I'm not sure everything that was said by a gentleman by the name of Small I saw on one of the programs. I'm not saying everything is 100% or is verifiable. A lot of it is oral history that's been passed down, and I know things change, circumstances change, people communicate and transfer information, and in the mix, in the transfer, things get a little muddled. But I am assuming, based on what he said, it's fair to assume that a whole lot of hell was broken loose within the Jamaican community and societies, which is continuing to harm us. And a legacy of all of that are the garrison communities and gangs that exist in Jamaica and that serve only and to do one thing, is to destroy those very people. All these people are in gangs and garrison communities, are suffering, and some of them, all of them, or most of them, probably know they're suffering and they think their lives are hopeless. And so when you don't have any hope, you tend to destroy yourself, and part of destroying yourself means you don't care about what's around you, so you go and destroy everything else around you. Part of being hopeless and not thinking you have the ability to improve your life or build the best life is seeing somebody else that's doing well or seemingly doing well. You don't know how they're struggling or how where they got, but you just figure, I'm going to take what they have. Because apart from the fact that that's the action of a hopeless person, it's something that's been taught to us throughout history, that if you see something that you want, just go take it. The British didn't come here on some invitation from any native person or First Nation persons. The Spanish didn't do it either, and the French didn't do it. Everybody came and took what they wanted. They took us and dragged us out of Africa, brought us here. So we've been educated throughout history that that was an acceptable way of doing things, and it hasn't changed. Now they're more covert. People don't even realize that you have these covert activity going on in their economies, where countries are out there creating distractions and all kind of things happening in their country and around them, and they don't realize that while they're distracting them with one hand, they're stealing from them in the other, and then when the resources are all gone, then they abandon them. So it's ongoing. The whole Ukraine thing that's happening now, it shows Russia felt they're so powerful, we're going in and we take this place and we're taking that part of Ukraine and Crimea, or whatever the case is. We have the Kashmir region between India and Pakistan and China and all of them up there just decide they want to grab this. China trying to grab Taiwan, China going and building islands in the Indian Ocean or China Sea, wherever it is. And for intelligent people who they can't see the logic. But we have these people who are leaders who get in there and they have this old attitude that we're going to take and we're going to take more. Why would China need more land? I don't know. One of the largest countries on the planet. And they have places in China that the government can't even go or don't go because it's so massive. The same thing with Russia. Why would Russia try to get into Ukraine and then they're killing off people, murdering people? For what reason? There is no logic other than a few greedy people who are challenged intellectually do those things. Because if it's about economic power, why are you destroying a whole country when you could be having good relationships with those countries and then benefiting by trade, by tourism, people coming into your countries and sharing culturally and otherwise? But no, we have these tyrants and ignorant people who are challenged intellectually, and they go in and they destroy the planet, destroy lives. So I said the thing I saw, I had to comment. And it's a shame that the 21st century is here and we have to have these conversations. But you know why a lot of people are hesitant to leave or to do a constitution that pretty much technically it's saying we're no longer affiliated with the British Crown, but in actuality people are fundamentally afraid to do that because they figure we don't have a third watch, a third eye looking over us, looking about our business, because our leaders are so corrupt that we don't trust them. And one of the chief agencies that are causing people to think 4 times about this matter of divorcing ourselves technically from the British Crown by becoming a republic is the judiciary. Our biggest concern is that we want to have the ability to take our issues to an independent body that's going to do their jobs objectively and without corruption. And because of that distrust of our own judiciary, that's why that question is out there. But here's the reality. The reality is that we are an independent persons. We have to determine our own destiny. And because of the oppression that we've been through with these people regulating us or over us, it's creating such a harmful experience for us, both psychologically and otherwise, that only intelligent people will realize that we have to divorce ourselves from that and take really all the responsibility for our own lives, destiny, our children, and the future. In terms of the trust factor for the judiciary, it's one of the easiest things to fix. We can develop a judiciary in the Caribbean that we can trust. And you know, I ask anybody I do business with, I tell them, don't trust me, trust the paperwork. And you see where the Constitution is important here. The Constitution is that paperwork. The Constitution is what defines how we act, who we interact with, what you can do and what you can't do, what is allowable and what is not. And what we have to understand, and I've stated it before, I implied it, I've suggested it, is that no, everything in the Constitution that has to do with the governance of the people of Jamaica or any sovereign nation must be written and stated clearly without ambiguity, that anybody can understand it. So when you walk into any government office and an employee or a member of the government or elected official says something to you that's contrary to the Constitution, you whip out that document and say, not like that, no. And if they insist on going that route, that's why you have an independent security force that is not or no longer managed by the state or the chief executive. Each of these divisions of government must be separated, because the police are there to protect and serve the people, meaning you shouldn't be taking orders from a politician who are making rules and orders to oppress people and discriminate against certain people because of their political affiliation or their economic interest seeks to defraud these people of what's theirs, so they use the police. And so if a government official or employer or employee that's working for the government decides on taking action, that when you whip out that Constitution and that Constitution states that act or activity is illegal according to the Constitution, then guess what? If they don't want to resolve or back down or change or do the right thing according to the law, and the Constitution is the law of the land, no other law supersedes the Constitution. So no matter if a judge makes a decision, if it's in contradiction of the Constitution, it must be abandoned and reversed. I mean, it's written in our present Constitution, and that should continue. But that said, if you don't have an independent body that ensures that the Constitution is enforced, then judges and all of them people can do their stuff and get away with it and then leave you to hang, because if you go to court, then they just do the same thing, ignore you and say, to heck with you, we are the ones that's making the decision. And so they come with other ambiguous activity and actions that trick you out of your right. But if you have an independent police force that has divisions within the force that specializes in constitutional issues and questions, it means you call that particular division of government and you file a report and they execute the law according to the Constitution. The same thing with land. You own property. We have constitutional rights as it relates to property, and it's clearly defined in the Constitution. So when you go to court, a judge can decide, say, oh, we're going to issue orders against you and your property, when the Constitution says no court, no law, no third arm of government can take such actions. It's actually in there. But you don't have that. So you go to court and courts give injunctions against your property for whatever reason. There are no legitimate reasons for anybody to put an injunction against your property. So it's illegal, it's wrong, but they're getting away with it because we don't have any other body out there that enforces the constitutional law. So we have the Constitution, we have a police division with a constitutional division that enforces the Constitution, because again, everything is defined. So if you own your property and a judge said, oh, we're going to stop you from going on your property or dealing with your property until this matter is resolved, then guess what? You go down to the constitutional authorities and they look at the Constitution and say, no judge can make such an order. Again, it's written in the Constitution. But who can regulate it? Because as we have it now, the police, with an injunction, the judge can go order the police to enforce an injunction. All right? Though a lot of police will tell you they're not there for that. That's not their responsibility or duty, which is true. The police isn't there to enforce any kind of stuff in a civil litigation. They're there to serve and protect the people. And so we need to really sit down and fine-tune the Constitution. Our Constitution is not fine-tuned now. Our Constitution is about a half-inch thick, if that, paperback. So how can you have a constitution, a document that governs every aspect of your life or the country's life, and it's that thin? So we know that's the first thing. It's something wrong with that. Simplicity, as I've said to you before. So going back to the question, which I won't belabor, going back to the question, should we leave the empire? Yes, we should. It's a given. We want to be independent. Let's be independent. And we shouldn't have a foreign power determining what's going on in our country in terms of legal decisions. At the same time, we don't need to have a judge being independent to the point where he's making decisions that we can standardize in the operations of the court. It's simple. As I said, we have other areas of life in a sovereign country that is governed by standardized rules. Traffic laws, for example. Each traffic law is written down. There's no guessing as to what is the law and what isn't, and what the police can do and can't do. Why don't we have the same thing for a judge? A judge isn't a saint. A judge is a man that operates in an economy or a country. He's from the culture. He's of the stock of people that formulates government. And he's of the stock of people who are amongst the most corrupt in the world. So why would we want to trust a judge with every decision? No, we need to define clearly and stipulate every action this person can take. And that goes for the judiciary. So if we do that, or when we do that in a constitutional reform, then we can trust the judiciary, because it's not about the judge making decisions which contradict the Constitution and your rights. For example, when you're filing a claim, we have the claim going to the clerks or officers of the court to review it. And in that review, if what you have in your claim form contradicts what the standards for are as it relates to a particular matter, and they review it and it's in contradiction of that and of other people's rights, then that claim stops there. Right? So, and if we have an appeal process, which we should, because again, we don't want people abusing their process, but if you object to what they're saying and you disagree, then you have a review process there. It goes to some supervisory review, and if you're not satisfied there, then it goes to the judge or trial, and it goes to judges and for a review. And I would structure the courts to operate like this. The first review is a review where we have a panel of 3 judges, not the appeal. The first review, we have a panel of 3 judges who review your claim at that level and determine should this claim go forward. And if your claim goes forward at that point, then you can have a one judge sitting to judge or go over the matter and resolve the matter. But remember now, if we have everything clearly defined, there should be no lengthy debate about the decision in any matter. The fact is, if it goes to this 3-panel review and they make a ruling, that's that. If it has to be appealed, then we have the appeal process, which is again available to everybody because it's affordable. In short, you can see from that kind of model that it's easy to dictate how matters are operated on in court. That the court functions a certain way, that the officers of the court functions a certain way, that the judge functions a certain way, that the registrar functions a certain way, and no registrar can just sit there and ignore the process, no judge. We have standard agreements or standing operational agreements within the court that says a claim filed on the 5th, 10 days after the claim is filed on the 11th, the claim must go in front of a review panel and an answer must be available on that date, so that we don't have registrars and officers of the court playing a game where people's cases are thrown into the junk file or the X file and nobody knows what's happening to it for years, as we've been experiencing. And from all indications, it's not only us. There are several people there with matters that's been sitting for 20, 30 years in some cases, where they just look at it, toss it into some bin, call it the X-Files, and wait until you die, and there's nobody else to follow through, because a lot of people don't know you can continue a claim even if the person who filed it originally died. If you have an interest in that person's estate, you can. But who knows all of that? We're not teaching or educating our people about it. Every school should teach our people about the court process or the judicial process, because that's where we're getting future judges from, future attorneys, future mediators from. That's where we're getting. So why are we not teaching them from that level? Why are we not teaching them logic and philosophy in schools? Because we want to stop people from getting a fair deal. So we don't do the things that's necessary. We need to get our people to be able to think, to articulate matters. Everybody, not just people who want to become attorneys and the rest of us walking around like we're dumb and our necks are in the sand like an ostrich because we can't go in any place and assert our rights because we don't know it. That's going to be a part of the educational process, because that's what we use to protect ourselves under the Constitution, and the Constitution protects us in reverse and vice versa, because we know our rights, and the rights are embedded, written down, not guesswork where some judge go in and do what they want to do or make a decision that they want to make that's in conflict and contradictory to everything we want for our people's progress. So the question, should we leave the king? Again, yes. Why? Because we can legislate in the Constitution, or in fact, we can put articles in the Constitution that determine how cases are treated, how cases are resolved, and what actions can be taken to prevent judges from playing this whole game and corruption with their friends. If we know the problems, and we do, we can reverse engineer the rules and policies to destroy them. If a judge is affiliated to a particular person or organization, him can rule or try any matter with those people. And so if when a person finds out that he has contradicted that rule, then he himself is penalized and pulled from that particular issue. And because he's not trustworthy, because he violated the rules and knowingly violate the rules, then you get rid of him. There are no recourses or we're going to give a blight this time. If you break those rules, which you're undermining the Constitution and taking people's rights, you're disrupting the order of society, then there is no recourse or excuse, or we're going to give a break this time. No, we're going to get other people, fresh people, to fill your position. And the beauty about that is, if judges and officers of the court know that we have a non-tolerant policy, we don't tolerate the nonsense, they're going to be on the P's and Q's and they're going to function, because they know if they get busted, they're not just left there to function and get pensions, even though we know they're breaking the law. And because that's the situation now, we have judges that we know are corrupt. We have documentation that they are corrupt, and yet they sit there until they retire and get a pension. Why? If you are in private industry and you're running a business and you have your own business, and in fact, if you don't have your own business and you employ somebody to work in your home, and you go in there and tell that person, don't touch that thing over there, and they touch it, and you find out, what you do with those people? You fire them, because they're A, not somebody you could trust, and B, when you tell them don't do that, what else are they going to be doing when you're not looking? So in business, we don't play that game. At a corporate level, then people mess up, you get rid of them. And I'm pretty sure you're following world news. When a person is busted making a mistake, the first thing you see is they hand in their resignation or they're fired. Because that standard protects everybody from corruption and from being liable for things that could harm us down the road, which is what happens when you have corruption in these bodies. So most of us want to hang on to the Privy Council for that reason. But again, we can maintain a clean, uncorruptible court because we put the rules in place. We ensure that our courts are digitally recording everything that happens in there so they can be reviewed. And we have a review process for every court trial or every case and every decision before a final decision is given. And I'm not talking about an appeal process. I'm talking about if a judge makes a ruling, then it goes to an independent panel of judges not affiliated with the trial that will now go in and review the ruling word for word, point for point, and then check against the law, constitutional law, and the things we have recorded in the Constitution, and see those panels reviewing it. And if there's a disagreement in any of the parts of the ruling as it relates to the law, Constitution, honesty and objectivity, then that panel deals with it, they fix it before a final order is given on that, forcing people to go to an appeal. And we still have an appeal process. But the thing is, when you have things like this happening, it means we can speed things up. It means we don't have to wait 10 years for an appeal to be heard. It's a speedy process. So we put time limits, just like how we want to put time limits on politicians. We put time limits or term limits on judges. We put term limits on politicians, and we put time limits on document review and final decisions, so that people know that they're going to have an answer to a question in a specific timeline. That allows everybody to plan, understand that I'm going to be able to look at the decision and take action within a certain timeline, by a certain timeline, and your life's not tied up, and people don't get depressed and sick and ill, again, which contributes to our country suffering, because now we have to generate money to pay for people who are ill. Because when we stress the hell out of people, that's what happens. Stress is the greatest contributor to the decline of a person's health. And if so many people are stressed in a country, the mental health is extremely, extremely critical to our survival. So if we have people who all or most or a lot are mentally compromised because of stress and lack of hope and lack of trust in the system, what do you think going to happen? We're going to have chaos, we're going to have crime, we're going to have brutality, we're going to have people who are incensed and insensitive, and they don't care when they're in that state. And that is one of the reasons Jamaica is having this problem. So yeah, we can leave, but it goes right back to what I'm saying. The most important activity that we should be engaged in now as a people to get the best government, and government involves having a judiciary, is to structure our government and our operational structures, that we have separation of powers, we have separation of divisions of the government, each operating independently and keeping an eye on the other one and monitoring them and reviewing them, so that everybody has the confidence that I don't have to sit and worry about being ripped off or robbed. And again, we can look at other countries, major countries, every one of them, the British, the English, the British, the Americans, the Russians, all of them major countries, guess what? They have one agency watching the other agency. But we don't want people to just watch independently. We want to have the rules written down and guidelines to say, if this agency does something, then this agency over here can enforce the rule and reverse whatever illegal actions they have taken. So this way we get out of people doing their mess and then ruining lives and running away or getting away with it for decades without consequences and retiring with the people having to pay them out of their pockets or taxes, even though these people were the contributing factor to the worst lifestyle that the country can have. Thank you. Have a great one and enjoy your weekend. So as I said, share, subscribe, get the information to as many people as you possibly can, engage them in discussions, let them know they need to play a role, and we all need to demand and tell these politicians that you can't take our money and think it's okay. We're not going to allow you to steal from us, because that's what you're doing. And then we decide on our constitution, where we're going, how we're going, monitor it. And the more people we have thinking about these solutions, the bigger the constitution, the more detailed it is, the more our sovereignty and our rights, civil, human, and other, are protected. Thank you. Have a great weekend again. Looking forward to making a comment on something else, and you do the same. So please share, subscribe, and stay healthy, stay safe. Pull your loved ones close and realize that you're as valuable an asset as any other person, because you're helping all of us when you participate in building a firm and stable government and country. Bye.